Hi everyone, this is Garan. Welcome back to my channel. So today we're gonna do something very interesting and very useful, I think, for some of you, because we're gonna take a very bad track, not well recorded and well mixed track, and basically try to save it. And we're gonna do it in mastering. And with mastering, I mean trying to work with what we have in order to save it. So basically the idea for this video came out recently when I rediscovered a track that I recorded a long time ago, like 7 or 8 years ago, with my bandmate Ricardo. Basically, we made a cover of Tempting Time by Animals as Leaders, but we never released it for some reasons. So it stayed there for all these years in my phone actually, and yeah, we never did anything with it. So I re-listened to it recently, just for fun. But I thought, why not make a video where I try to save it and trying to correct the lacks of this track. So basically, it was recorded, as I said, many years ago when I was just starting out recording. And what this means is that I didn't know what I was doing, basically. So of course it's full of errors and things made because I don't know. You're gonna see later what I'm talking about. So it's an Animals as Leader song. So it's very simple actually in terms of arrangement. It's just drums, 2 guitars, and some other little layers, effects, pads, something like that. Nothing extreme, nothing exceptional. So we're gonna do it in mastering because I don't have the old files, of course. I don't remember where I put them. I probably deleted them, and also it was made in Cubase like 5, very old version. I don't even know anymore how to use Cubase, and even then I was just going at random basically. And yeah, the only thing I kept is this file, is this stereo file. So we're gonna go with mastering. But basically, I remember I programmed a drum with the native plugin of Cubase, and then the guitars were made with this Zoom G3, which is a small pedal board that we both had back then, and it was basically our only way to record us. So we went with that. At the time, I remember it turned out cool, and for some reasons it actually did, because it doesn't sound extremely terrible. It just sounds a little bit underwhelming, if you know what I mean. So without further ado, I'm gonna show you what I did to try to fix it as much as I could. Yeah, let's jump to Reaper. And here we are in Reaper. So as you can see, I've got the original track here, and I've got some other tracks here for processing that I'm gonna show you in a minute. First, let's hear it, how the original sounded. Yeah, so as you can hear, it's not exceptional, it's not extremely bad, it's nothing in particular. First of all, I'm gonna show you this little thing that makes me really laugh. As you can see, there are some little automation here in this point. Let me see if I can zoom it. Here, as you can see, there are some little automations just in this point of the track, and these are to compensate for the very rookie error that I made back then. So if we listen to this part in the original track, just pay attention to this point right here, this and this one. I don't know if you can hear it, but there's basically a ducking of the whole mix when the snare does that. two very, very hard hits. So this is what I was talking about when I said that I had no idea what I was doing. Basically, I slapped the compressor on the master bus and fucked it up. So basically, you can really hear that the compression is ducking too much of all the track when the snare hits. Let's hear it again. It's really annoying to me. I'll let you hear what I did to compensate for it. I just made these little automations, like I don't even know, it's not even a dB, maybe I don't remember how much it is, maybe 1 or 2 dB, I don't remember, but it's not important. Let's hear how it sounds. So as you can hear, that sensation is gone. It might be not so apparent, but I think it makes quite a difference when you correct it. So this is the kind of stuff that can be very, very difficult to fix when it's very extreme. In this case, was not so evident, and it was just these 2 points that really annoyed me so much. Let's now hear a little bit more of how the old track sounded. And let's hear how I fixed it. So it's quite a difference. It's not like the best recording in the world still, but it's something, it's just something more, something that could be maybe published as a demo, as a single, maybe, I don't know. So let's see what I did here. First of all, there is some kind of weird routing. Maybe you noticed that I have these 2 tracks here that that are named mid and side, because in situations like this, basically mid side is your best friend because it gives you the possibility to isolate some elements a little more. At least you can separate like the snare from the guitars and the vocals. There are no vocals here, but if this song had vocals, it would be very useful also for that. The kick, of course. So basically what we have here is very, very simple. We have kick, snare, maybe toms. Maybe toms are slightly panned, but basically kick and snare are in the center, and guitars and overheads cymbals are panned. The guitars are not panned hard left and right, which is a little bit of a bummer, because if that was the case, I could isolate them a little bit more. In this case, as we will hear, there is still a little bit of guitar in the center, which creates all sorts of phase problems. But this is what we have, so let's deal with it. So basically the routing is a little bit weird, but not so complicated. These 2 tracks come out from this track. Basically I copied the same track. This is the same track copied in these two other tracks, and I made a little bit of processing in order to divide the mid from the side. So as you can see, the mid has a send to these other tracks here, the master track, and as you can see, there's just the first channel that goes into this one, and in the side it's the opposite. We have the second channel. This is because we have this little plugin here, the mid-side encoder. default Reaper plugin, which basically takes what's equal between the two channels and puts it on the channel 1 of the stereo track, and all that is different is gonna be in the second channel. So basically, if it's the same, it's in the middle, otherwise it's in the side. Very simple. So we have the same encoder here and here, as you can see. It's at the beginning of the chain, and we have the decoder here, which basically rebuilds the sound from the two channels. Let's hear the mid side, and as you will hear, there's basically kick and snare and some guitars and some cymbals. Oh yeah, in this case, there's the solo. All the lead parts are in the center, so this is gonna act like a vocal in terms of importance in that cases. But if you go a little bit back where there are just rhythm guitars, you can see they are much less apparent. But they're still there. And now let's hear the sides. It's gonna sound very weird, both in the headphones, both in speakers. So don't worry, it's normal. This is not the most phase coherent production, if you noticed. So here's the side. It's so weird in the room. It's much more annoying in the room with speakers than in headphones. So if you want to feel weird, try this, basically. So yeah, this is the main thing about this master. Then we have these little subs that we're gonna talk about later. So now, the main difference between the two, in my opinion, and the biggest thing I was lacking for the original version was the low end, which is basically absent. If you listen here. It's not very prominent, and it lacks a little bit of that body. Let's move to another section. Versus the old version. You can see the difference, right? So basically what I did to achieve this was some EQ in these tracks, but mainly is this little sub bass here, where I basically send the middle track, as you can see here, into it. So I get mainly the kick, but also some of the lower ends of the guitars. Let's hear it. You know, just rumble, but it makes a big difference when all the other things are playing. So this is basically the signal chain, an EQ just to cut off everything except the lower frequencies. It's not cut that low actually. You can see it's 169 Hertz. Yeah, I felt that if I lowered it like below 100 Hertz, I had a little bit of a hole in the 150 area. So I took it up a little bit, so it gives a little bit of power also to the fundamentals of the guitars, which is something that you wouldn't do normally. But since there's no bass in this song, there's a lot of room for bass frequencies, so it's not that annoying. And then we have this plugin, which is the crack, but for real machines, set to limiter and cranked it basically. And just the sustain taken back a little bit to give it a touch more of definition, of clarity. But it's basically a limiter trying to keep the low end as compact, as tight as possible. So let's hear it in the mix, with or without this bass. And this is the first big processing I I felt it was needed. Let's go to the mid processing. So basically I have some EQ here, and this was made just to take out some of the frequencies I felt were lacking a little bit. In particular, this is the fundamental of the snare, which is still I couldn't go too far with it because I would have taken a lot of the kick and the guitars. It's not good, but just a little touch to make it have a little bit more of body. Then this was basically to give the kick a little bit of high end. It makes a little difference, really. It's not that effective, but it's just nice to have. And then here at almost 4K, we have a little bit of a boost for the attack of the snare, and also to make the lead guitars cut a little more, to make them a little more in your face. Then we have this plugin, which is a compressor, very straightforward. It's not really working that much. Yeah, my computer is not... Oh fuck. So I'm basically now at 35 stupid because I was... So basically I was wondering why my computer was starting to glitch and go nuts where I put off a plugin like this, and it was because I forgot to plug the power sock in my laptop. Yeah, that's how you do it. So I needed to go to 5% of battery to notice it, so very good. Let's go. So we were talking about compression. As you can see, it's not working that much. But if I take it out, you can see mainly how the guitars go forward a little bit. It just in general, it keeps the things a little bit more tight, more glued together. I have this sidechain high pass here because I don't want the low frequencies to affect this very much, because I want it to work basically more on the other instruments. Not so fast of an attack and release, 3:1 ratio. A very generic use of compression, I would say, but it makes its job. And then we have another instance of crack, which is set to maximizer this time. What this does is just basically pushes everything a little bit forward. So let's hear it. Again, not extreme, but a little thing after the other, it can make a difference. And here it is for the mid. Let's go to the side. We have, again, EQ. This time I cut the lower frequencies, and I boosted this quite unusual frequency, actually, 115 Hz. It sounded good to me, so I left it there. And then I cranked the highs a little bit because the sound was very muffled, not very attacky, and I wanted it to be a little bit more open. Also, it affects a little bit also the cymbals, of course, but it's not very extreme in that sense. So let's hear the with and without the EQ. Let's hear it in another section, like here. So yeah, you can hear how it opens up the sound a little bit. Not only makes the guitar a little bit more intelligible, but makes the mix a little bit more stereo, a little bit more wide, more enjoyable, I think. So this was nice. Then we have this very weird plugin. I wouldn't even know how to describe it. They talk about it as a free alternative to the Sonox inflator, which is a very famous plugin, basically famous for having some magic that makes the sound bigger. And this is basically what it does. I don't know what it is. It just sounded good to my ears. Maybe I could make a little bit of a research and show you about this plugin a little bit more. But for now, let's just see what it does in the mix. So let's take it out. Again, it gives the guitar a little bit more of a life, basically. I don't know how to describe it. They are a little bit more intense. They come out a little more. So I don't know what it's doing, but it's welcome. And at last, we have a very classic La2a compressor, just basically keeping the guitars together. You can see working very, very, very little. Maybe we can show you a section if it works a little more. Not here. Not really. Last thing I did was to put a little bit of reverb in this section here. Nothing super fancy, just a little reverb to give it a little bit more of ambience. You can see it's very, very dry without it. I just used the Reverb 4. I don't know how to pronounce reverb. Just with the settings, and it's basically a big room. Sounded good to me, so I kept it there. Yeah, what else? Let's go to the master track. We have the decoder here. Then we have this very, very particular plugin that I enjoy very much using sometimes. It's a multi-band compressor by Sonic Anomaly. They make some very cool plugins. This one is one of my favorites. You have to be a little bit careful with it because it can sometimes ruin the mix, in my opinion. But if you use it wisely, it's a very nice tool to have and gives a little bit more of a compactness. I don't even know if it's a word, but compactness, maybe. So let's hear it. Of course, there is a little bit of a volume jump here, so it will sound a little better when the plugin is on. But basically, it makes it a little bit more even, and also it gives you a little bit of a more forward sound. In general, it's a very good tool. I like it. You have to be careful with it because you can overdo it very easily. The last thing I've got in the chain is Ozone 9 Elements. I've never used it. This is the free version that they recently released. So I downloaded it and tried it. I need to say it's pretty good. It doesn't ruin the transient. In general, with limiters, if you make them work too much, there's the risk of compressing way too much and ruining all the transient, and in general making the mix worse. So I found that in general using clippers is a better way to achieve loudness, for example, and maybe then use the limiter to work just very little. But in this case I didn't even use a clipper because it was already quite transparent. I didn't need, and just using the maximizer here, not the equalizer and the imager, and yeah, I've got it working like, I don't know, you know, 3-4 dB max, but it's still pretty transparent, and I've got the transient emphasis pulled up. It sounded good to me, so I put it like in this spot here. Let's hear it with and without. Of course, again, there is gonna be a volume jump. Not even that much. That's interesting. So it's giving me the little extra thickness, extra punch, but without being too extreme. It's very transparent. I really enjoyed using it with this tune. And the last thing, we have this loudness meter, Yulin. As you can see, it's pretty loud. The original track was already pretty loud, maybe for the wrong reasons because I probably clipped it. But you know, it wasn't so hard for me to achieve that loudness. And there it is. There's not much more to it. I tried to work also with saturation in the guitars, extra compressions to bring out the transient a little more, transient designers and stuff. But over this point, I just found that everything I was making the mix worse. So it's a wise thing to stop and realize that you have reached the limit of the material that you're working with, which in this case, it's a very average level of production and recording. So I am quite satisfied with the results. I don't think that this mix is now ready to be published and be one of the greatest mix ever, of course, but I think it's nice to challenge yourself with this kind of thing to see where you can take something that is not exceptional and make it better at least. So thank you very much for watching this video. I hope you find it interesting and that maybe you find something that could help you in your productions. If you would have done something different than what I did in this video, let me know in the comments because I would really like to know. And if I find something very interesting, I might also try it and update this version. Yeah, again, thanks for watching. See you next time.